All right, guys, so we got to talk about it. What will the Baltimore Ravens do with star tight end Mark Andrews? So welcome in to another episode. It's your guy Noah here with For the Flock. Now let's talk about this topic because I haven't really wanted to talk about it, but there's so much questions from fans and stuff going on social media about what the Baltimore Ravens should do with Mark Andrews. If you're kind of wondering what we're talking about right now, here's some context. In 2021, the Baltimore Ravens signed Mark Andrews to a 4-year, $56 million contract extension that will expire at the end of next season. So he will be under contract for 2025, but be a free agent in 2026. However, here's the predicament. The Baltimore Ravens have another top 10 NFL tight end on their roster who's young and upcoming, who makes clutch plays in the playoffs and big-time moments. His name is Isaiah Likely. He was a 4th-round draft pick in the 2022 NFL draft, and he will be a free agent the same year as Mark Andrews next season. So, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Charlie Kolar, all three tight ends on the roster, will be free agents in 2026. And Mark Andrews carries an $11 million cap hit this upcoming year. So there's talks about, well, if you were to trade Mark Andrews, you'd open up $11 million. You'd have some money to extend some guys that are due for contracts like Kyle Hamilton, like Tyler Linderbaum, like an Isaiah Likely. Zay Flowers isn't far from a contract extension, and you're going to have to pay him wide receiver one type of money because he put up wide receiver one type of numbers. This is a problem that you have whenever you are really good at drafting and you develop homegrown players that actually stay on the roster and are really good Pro Bowl type of players. So it really is a good problem to have. We just paid a monster contract to Justin Madubuike, last season. You had to let certain guys go. You had to let Patrick Queen go, who was a 1st-round pick. What are you going to do with Odafe Owe? There's a lot of questions about what the Ravens are going to have to do with some of their homegrown drafted talent. But let's talk about some numbers here and what I think is going to happen. So first of all, I do not think the Baltimore Ravens will trade Mark Andrews, at least this season. I think the Ravens are going to want to keep a strength to strength, where in 2025 you will see these elite 3 tight end sets with Charlie Kolar, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. You don't want to mess with that room, that chemistry. Remember, in 2018, Mark Andrews came in the league with Lamar Jackson. Mark is Lamar's guy. So they love each other. I don't know how Lamar would feel if Mark traded away or even depart in free agency. But he also has a good connection and good rapport with Isaiah Likely, who's made a lot of plays for him in clutch moments. But a reminder that despite what happened in the playoffs where Mark Andrews dropped the game-winning, or I guess the game-tying 2-point conversion, and then earlier in the game in the 4th quarter, he had that costly fumble that could have set the Ravens up to win that game definitely, and also could have kept Derrick Henry in the game. That fumble from Mark Andrews kind of put you in pass-only mode and took Derrick Henry out of the football game, in the 4th quarter. So Mark Andrews did not have his best game in the divisional round of the playoffs. We know that. However, that season, he had 11 receiving touchdowns. And in his career, he's the Ravens' leading receiver. He has 5,530 receiving yards and 51 touchdowns over a course of 7 seasons. And reminder, there was some time where he missed, where he was not healthy, so those numbers could have been even more crazy. So he's a dog. Mark Andrews is that guy. He just hasn't had his best performances in the playoffs. And, we really can't get on him too much because, quite frankly, Lamar Jackson hasn't had his best playoff performances either. But let me remind you of this also. In 2023, when Isaiah Likely stepped in for Mark Andrews because Mark Andrews went down with that broken leg, remember? Baltimore Ravens got the number 1 seed in the AFC. They went to the AFC Championship. Mark Andrews came back for that game. But during that 6-game stint where Mark Andrews was out, Isaiah Likely had 322 yards in 6 games with 5 touchdowns. He averaged 53.6 yards per game, and that was whenever Odell Beckham Jr., Bateman, and Flowers were all on the roster at the same time competing for targets. Isaiah Likely was instantly an immediate favorite target for Lamar Jackson. Isaiah Likely was also reported to be the star of training camp, the best training camp of this offseason in 2024 before the season started. Likely was making plays all over the field. We saw then in the first game of the year, week 1 versus the Kansas City Chiefs, Isaiah Likely goes like 120 receiving yards, a touchdown, and was like a millimeter away from the game-tying touchdown where his toe was deemed to be out of bounds. So, and then also you look at the playoff performances, you saw Isaiah Likely scored the touchdown on that clutch 90-yard touchdown drive from Lamar Jackson. If you guys remember, Lamar bounced around in the pocket, threw a strike over the middle of the field right into the end zone. Isaiah Likely slid, caught the pass, and then Mark Andrews dropped the 2-point conversion. We know that. Isaiah Likely also caught a touchdown in the divisional round last year, which helped send the Baltimore Ravens to the AFC Championship. So my point is, Isaiah Likely makes plays like he's got the clutch gene in his DNA. He makes big plays in big moments. You can pretty much look at Isaiah Likely whenever the game's on the line. That's where Lamar, he trusts him, and he makes himself available, and he's a massive target with really strong hands. I can remember that crazy catch that he made against the Jaguars in 2023 as well. But point is, Isaiah Likely is very talented, and I believe that if he was a starter on the Ravens, that he would post 1,000 yards in a season, like no doubt. I 100% believe that, and he would have double-digit touchdowns as well. That's how strongly I feel about the talent of Isaiah Likely. He's also just a dog with his physicality. Man, you guys saw the stiff arm against Minkah Fitzpatrick in the playoff game. So Isaiah Likely's that guy. But Mark Andrews is also that guy. So what do you do here? Let's talk about some numbers. Remember, Isaiah Likely averaged 53.6 yards per game during that stint that Mark was out. Mark Andrews, if you were to part ways with him post June 1st or trade, you'd save $11 million, which could bring you in a pass rusher, or it could open up money to extend one of your guys that's going to be a free agent in the future. I don't think, like I said, I don't think the Ravens are going to part ways with him this season. However, I do think it's a high chance that in 2026, like whenever he's a free agent, that they let him walk and that they end up giving a nice contract to Isaiah Likely. Because Isaiah Likely is 24 years old right now. He'll be 26 in the 2026 season whenever he's a free agent. So he's 5 years younger than Mark Andrews with a very, very similar production and a really high upside. Isaiah Likely, like I said, shows up in the big-time moments. Now, with Mark Andrews, keep in mind, I love Mark Andrews. I literally have his signed jersey right here in my office. So, like, he's one of my favorite Ravens of all time. He's one of my favorite players. I'm just talking about, like, business moves, logistically, long-term, big picture, what could play out here. Mark Andrews will be 30 years old when next season starts. In September, he'll turn 30. The year after that, in 2026, when he's a free agent, he would have been 31 years old, in the 2026 season. So 31 versus 26, and Mark Andrews versus Isaiah Likely. And I know Mark Andrews doesn't have a long injury history, but he does have a little bit of an injury history with that broken leg. And we saw him get off to the slow start with the car wreck in this offseason. None of that's his fault. Like, I'm not saying it is. Just saying when it comes to, like, long-term risk complications, Isaiah Likely has, like, zero injury history, and he's 5 years younger compared to Mark Andrews, who does have a little bit of an injury history and is 5 years older. But let's not forget that Mark Andrews this season, despite getting off to a slow start with the car wreck during training camp, like a life-threatening car wreck, he still had 673 yards and 11 touchdowns and didn't really get going until midseason. So if he would have been off to a hotter start, I mean, he could have had another 1,000-yard type of season, 15 touchdowns possibly. Mark Andrews is really that guy. Like, don't forget, he made some big plays in the Bills game despite the plays that he didn't make in the drop and the turnover. Mark Andrews is still very talented, and tight ends can play into their mid-30s at a high level. Mark Andrews is also like the epitome of play like a Raven. His training ethic, his mentality, his mindset. He cares so much. He puts it all on the line, and he's a great leader in the locker room. So, with that being said, what do you think the Baltimore Ravens are going to do with Mark Andrews? Do you see a trade? Do you see just letting him walk in free agency? Because if it comes down to Likely or Andrews, where do you think they'll go? Because you don't want to, like, in my opinion, you don't want to let Isaiah Likely go in free agency next season. Like, he is too good of a young and upcoming talent with rapport and clutch playmaking ability in his veins. Like, could you find a way to make them both work? Like, could maybe they both take a little bit less, to keep each other around? Possibly. But are you telling me that Isaiah Likely doesn't want the chance to be the guy? Because he absolutely has the talent of the guy. It's just that he happens to be in the same tight end room as Mark Andrews, who's also the guy. So they got like a 1A, 1B thing going on right now. They really do feed off each other, and they complement each other really well. But what do you think ends up happening long term, man? I want to know all of your thoughts in the comments section below. Make sure to smash the like button if you got any value out of today's content. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to go check out the new channel that we just started. It's a faith, life, parenting, marriage channel, all that good stuff. Talking about being a disciple of Jesus. I'll leave that link in the description below. I love you guys. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.
When he wasn't looking, he ran me over.